guys. Wheelchair racers Marcel Hug of Switzerland and Brent Lakatos of Canada. They go head-to-head, sprint to the finish over 5,000 meters, and you know what? They got time for a little fist pump at the end of the race. Talk about best friends, bitter rivals. It's what the games are all about. And I love it. Absolutely love it. Coming up on Toyota Paralympic Games primetime, Allison Levine comes through in the clutch and sets up a big bocce showdown. More medals in track cycling. 2 hours of coverage starts at 8 p.m. I'll be back for that, along with Paralympian Steph Reed. We'll see you then.
This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, a new report paints a bleak picture of the system that deals with Nova Scotia's injured workers. New campus. We take you on a tour of Sydney's new community college set to open next week. And honoring Ellie Black. The four-time Olympic gymnast reflects on winning a prestigious sportsmanship award at the Paris Games.
Gorgeous conditions across both Nova Scotia and New Brunswick today, and your Saturday shaping up to be pretty sunny as well. As for the rest of the long weekend, all of those details, your full forecast coming up.
Good evening and welcome to viewers joining us from New Brunswick tonight. It is a review more than 2 decades in the making, a look at the Workers' Compensation Board in Nova Scotia. The 84-page report highlights 10 priorities that need to be addressed. Paul Palmater has our top story tonight.
We talked about the claims process being a little sluggish and slow.
Douglas Reid says the workers' compensation programs in Nova Scotia are in drastic need of an overhaul. He's the chair of the Workers' Compensation Review Committee. The committee was established last year and met 21 times and consulted with Nova Scotians province-wide.
The implications carry with them if they're not able to go back to work for the rest of their lives. Loss of benefits, no contribution to Canada Pension Plan, loss of their employer plan if they're unable to go back. So we need to fix this, and I think it's fixable.
The report slams the Workers' Compensation Board and highlighted the many areas where Nova Scotia scored the worst of all provinces and territories in many categories. Currently, 50,000 Nova Scotians have no workers' comp coverage at all. This is the first review of the system in more than 20 years.
So we have a very clear pathway ahead of us to show how improvements can be made. And I am in wholehearted agreement with the committee that change is going to come. And it is going to come through these recommendations before us.
With the committee's report now delivered, the CEO of the Workers' Compensation Board has a lot of work to do.
We were dropping the ball in that area. We were taking too long to get things done. And so that's the number one thing, is service that we're providing to both workers and employers.
Nova Scotia has the highest employer premiums, the lowest benefits for injured workers, and among the lowest percentage of workforce coverage. The Nova Scotia Federation of Labour welcomes most of the recommendations from the committee and are urging the government and the WCB to take immediate action to ensure injured workers receive the support they deserve. Paul Palmater, CBC News, Halifax.
And I'll talk to WCB Nova Scotia CEO Karen Adams about this review and what changes need to be made. That's our newsmaker just after 6:30. Halifax RCMP say a 41-year-old man from Indian Harbour has died after a car crash in Peggy's Cove. Officers were called to Peggy's Cove Road just before 9:30 on Wednesday night. 2 occupants were trapped in a car which was on fire. Firefighters were able to contain the flames, and first responders freed the passenger, who was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The driver was pronounced dead at the scene. Well, a monument honoring a fallen Nova Scotia captain with the Royal Canadian Air Force is now open in British Columbia. A ceremony was held in Kamloops yesterday to honor snowbird captain Jennifer Casey, who was from Halifax. The memorial, which is a silver outline of a snowbird, is called May She Soar. Casey died on May 17, 2020, after her jet struck a bird and crashed. Military personnel, dignitaries, and Casey's friends and family attended the public dedication.
She was a beautiful person inside and out, and she was very motivated in everything that she did. I mean, this today, it blows us away. It's a beautiful tribute. And I can't imagine how proud she'd be of her own accomplishments. I mean, just seeing everybody speaking about her today.
At the time of her death, Casey was taking part in a cross-country tour meant to raise the national spirit in the early months of the pandemic. The strike appears to have been averted in the Nova Scotia healthcare sector. The Council of Healthcare Unions, representing about 9,000 healthcare professionals, including physiotherapists, psychologists, social workers, and pharmacists, reached a tentative agreement with Nova Scotia Health and the IWK. The current agreement for 185 job classifications expired last October, but a tentative agreement was reached early this morning.
If the members at the bargaining table yesterday, at the end of the day, agreed to recommend this, it would be because they believe that it is a good offer. It's been a long process. They've been at the table a number of days.
The unions will begin preparing a vote for next week. Well, after years of construction, Sydney's new NSCC campus is set to open next week. Our Kyle Moore got a look inside.
The new campus covers 305,000 square feet. It's made up of 4 buildings that are connected through a series of pedways and will soon welcome more than 1,100 students and staff.
There's excitement, there's enthusiasm, there's a bit of anxiety about all of the unknowns.
Almost every corner of the building offers breathtaking views of Sydney's waterfront. Staff say it provides students with a relaxing environment for studying and socializing.
It's really kind of special how a space can inspire innovation. When I walk in the doors here, I think about all that is possible.
The school is also equipped with state-of-the-art technology and will offer over 30 programs from business, trades and transportation to health and human services. The building is also billed as one of Nova Scotia's most accessible and sustainable facilities.
We will have the ability for students with hearing impairment to connect into the classrooms. We also have technology, like each of the rooms. We don't have any projectors hanging from the ceiling anymore. It's all beautiful screens, and all of the faculty are equipped with laptops.
There will be some parking on site, but students are encouraged to carpool. That's because there are some concerns about increased traffic.
Downtown is a much different location than our former campus, so the ability for students to use public transportation and active transportation is a lot higher. So with those 510 spaces, we'll be evaluating over the coming weeks whether we need more, and we will see what happens next week.
The first day of classes for new students at the Sydney Waterfront campus is Tuesday, with returning students arriving on Wednesday. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
All right, Jay, the long weekend has finally arrived. How's it looking weather-wise?
Starts out great. Finishes maybe not quite on as sunny of a note, but today was absolutely gorgeous. We saw temperatures rebounding over the cooler conditions yesterday with that very brisk northerly wind. Temperature-wise today, still cool in places, but we saw most areas up in the low to mid-20s. Lots of sunshine across both Nova Scotia and New Brunswick this afternoon. Wind was fairly calm as well, and we're looking at a fairly clear sky through the overnight hours tonight. Now, there is a chance for some fog patches with the lighter wind conditions to set up as well. So if you see any cloud cover, that's likely going to come in the form of fog. As we roll this ahead to very late in the day on Saturday, still very clear across as we look to Saturday morning. developing across Nova Scotia, but starting to see some clouds approaching and some showers building in late in the day for folks into northwestern New Brunswick. So you do have a frontal system that is approaching. That is going to bring some wet weather Saturday night into Sunday, working its way across New Brunswick, and we'll also keep the chance of showers in the forecast as we get later in the day on Sunday for parts of Nova Scotia as well, and good chance we'll see more widespread showers and brisk winds into Labor Day Monday. So we'll be a little on the windy side, but your Saturday is shaping up to be quite nice for most of New Brunswick as well as Nova Scotia. And I'll have your full forecast for the Labor Day long weekend coming up a little later in the show.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks, Jay. To New Brunswick now, where Horizon Health Network says it will require masking in all patient-facing and clinical areas starting on Tuesday. Patients, visitors, designated support people, and healthcare workers will be required to mask in all Horizon buildings. In a news release, the Health Network said the measure is in response to rising rates of respiratory infections like COVID-19, whooping cough, and mycoplasma. It says infection rates are expected to rise further once school resumes. Residential power rates in New Brunswick jumped 13% in April. But the province's energy regulator has not yet given final approval for the amount, and some are hoping that the increase may yet be reduced. Robert Jones explains.
If you're the kind of person who pays attention to their household power meter, just to track the amount of electricity you use and what you're paying, you probably already know you were hit with a large power rate increase in April, 13% for residential customers. It was a big increase, but it's not necessarily permanent. And that's the big question. Will that increase stick?
Off and on all summer, the New Brunswick Energy and Utilities Board has been holding hearings to decide on power rates, including whether that big April increase should be approved or retroactively cut down.
This is the Colson Cove generating station in St. John. It's owned by NB Power, and indirectly, it's one of the reasons that power rates jumped so high in April. Colson Cove generates electricity by burning oil, and it takes about $160 worth to generate 1 megawatt hour of electricity. That's more than 20 times the $7 in uranium that it takes NB Power's nuclear generating station at Point Lepreau to produce the same amount of power. The problem is that Lepreau is currently out of service again, and to make up for the 15,000 megawatt hours a day Lepreau is supposed to produce, NB Power has to spend millions to access more expensive electricity elsewhere, like here. Not to mention spend millions more to fix the problems at Lepreau. Lepreau's troubles have been ongoing for a decade. They've been a major drain on NB Power's finances, and some power customers think it's a reason April's large rate increase should be scaled back. St. John Energy is New Brunswick's second largest electric utility. It's also one of NB Power's largest customers. St. John's J.D. Irving Limited is also one of NB Power's largest customers. And in presentations in front of the New Brunswick Energy and Utilities Board, both companies made the point that they and other customers of NB Power should not be made to pay for mistakes that are NB Power's own fault. And in their view, as expressed by J.D. Irving lawyer Glenn Zucker, consistently poor performance at the nuclear plant is the utility's fault.
The costs that have been occasioned, in particular by the horrible performance of Point Lepreau, cannot continue to be visited upon ratepayers.
St. John Energy has made an almost identical argument through its lawyer that ratepayers shouldn't be stuck paying for problems at Point Lepreau. NB Power disputes that poor performance at the nuclear plant is its fault, and it opposes a reduction in its April rate increase because of it. The Energy and Utilities Board is now deliberating on all of those issues. It's expected to render a decision later this fall.
Well, it's a sure sign that election season is around the corner in New Brunswick. The election is scheduled for October 21st. And today, Elections NB started shipping off all the material needed to the various ridings around the province.
We started our project planning in February of 2023 for the October 2024 election. And we had a very orderly plan for the following 18 months. And then that accelerated in the late summer of 2023, then when there began to be a lot of speculation about a potential early election call. So we staffed up and brought in extra people to get everything packed up. And that work, a lot of these pallets have been, sitting here ready to go since October of last year. This is the big show, and it's good to see it finally get going, because we really do feel like we've been sitting on the edge of our seats for basically a year, wondering if we would get to this day or if things would happen a little sooner. The next few weeks will be the returning officers having an opportunity to bring in staff, train them, get their offices set up. On the date that the writs are issued, which is September 19th, that's the first day that returning offices will be open to the public, and voters will be able to go into their local returning office and vote there anytime during the writ period. And then on advance voting day and election day, they'll be able to go to their local polling stations. But you'll start to see a lot of activity at those returning offices in the middle of September.
Back in Nova Scotia, residents of an historic Black community in the Halifax area are trying to restore its boundaries to better reflect what it looked like 200 years ago. Beechville was founded by Black refugees who were escaping slavery in the United States. Many of the refugees fought for the British during the War of 1812. For their efforts, they received 5,000 acres of land near the Northwest Arm in Halifax. However, over the decades, the community's boundaries have been pushed in due to amalgamation, industrial development, and the construction of Highway 103. Halifax Regional Municipality started the process of changing Beechville's boundaries in 2019 after hearing concerns from residents.
This is not just, the moral victories of, reclaiming and resetting. It's also very political in terms of, agency in terms of community determining their own path. And as I said, looking for, communities to be sustainable themselves. Communities are really tired of, constantly going to government for things.
Wright says priorities, once the new boundaries are set, will be affordable housing, commercial development, and maintaining heritage sites. It has been a fixture in Halifax almost 40 years, but this weekend, Barley's House of Blues and Ribs on Barrington Street will hold its last ever Sunday night blues jam. After that, the bar moves to its new location downtown. Preston Mulligan has more.
It's a Halifax institution here on Barrington Street, a blues bar that figured out early on what it wanted to be and stuck to it.
You'll have a lot of bars or restaurants come into the city, or any city. They do great for a couple of years and then they're gone. One thing I can say is we've been consistent here.
At a time when the city around it is reinventing itself, walking into Barley's is like walking back into the 1970s or 80s or 90s. The worn-in, timeless comfort is what the regulars here like.
What I'm gonna miss? This place. These guys are my family.
Donna Fries moved to Halifax 14 years ago. To her, this place feels like home.
It's camaraderie. And, everybody's got your back. And, they're not gonna let anybody, be rude to you or whatever. I feel safe here.
It's got a lot of soul. And a lot of our customers, they feel that. And it's come through the entertainment, through the camaraderie here with all the, we have a lot of regulars. It's that type of bar.
First and foremost, it's a blues bar. Garrett Mason every Tuesday night, and a long roster of other acts that know what the audience expects to hear.
Sometimes we'll take a band, like a shot in the dark. It's a hit or miss sometimes. But we've hit more than we've missed.
Every Sunday night, the house band sets up for the open jam and welcomes anyone on stage who can bend a few notes. It's a tradition that goes back to the very beginning and one that comes to an end this Sunday night. Drummer Gary Potts says it's been a pretty simple formula for 37 years.
I think it's the niche of being a blues bar, and I think it's kind of like a destination place. If you want to see some good blues or good live music, this is where you're going to come.
Iatru sold Barley's to a developer 7 years ago, but was allowed to stick around till he found a new place. He lucked out this summer when the space formerly occupied by the Stubborn Goat on Grafton Street opened up.
I think we're going to bring a whole new vibe to that area that's not offered, and it should be interesting. I can't say how it's going to turn out, but I'm hoping it's going to be successful, obviously.
This weekend, though, it's time for those who love this space to say goodbye.
Listen, when this building, if and when this building ever comes down, I know I'm not going to be able to hold back the tears. I grew up here, so it's more than just the business. It's it's part of me. It's part of our family.
The Barley's family moves into its new space next month. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Halifax.
A Nova Scotian athlete has won an award for her sportsmanship at the Olympic Games this summer. Four-time Olympian Ellie Black is the winner of the Paris 2024 Fair Play Award. Nicholas Sagan spoke to the gymnast here in Halifax about the honor.
The cell phone video of this tender moment captured another side of the Olympic spirit. Canadian gymnasts Ellie Black and Shalyn Olsen consoling their French opponent after her devastating falls. Posted on social media, this kindness got the world's attention.
We can be competitive, but we can also be friendly. We can be humans.
From among thousands of athletes, that act of humanity earned Black the Paris 2024 Fair Play Award. The four-time Olympian led the Canadian team to a fifth-place finish and placed 6th in the individual all-around competition. But along with her skill on the uneven bars, she's long been known for something else.
She's very fun. She always keeps the energy really high. She always has a smile on her face.
I like the pink on that sweater.
Black was here at her gym on Wednesday when she heard she won the award, which honors extraordinary acts of sporting spirit.
One of the athletes here was just kind of making a joke about, oh, I know the person who won. And I was like, what? And he's like, wait, you don't know?
Black was nominated by fans and other athletes on social media. Then she was chosen as one of 5 finalists by an international jury. Tens of thousands of people cast their votes to determine the winner, and Black came out on top.
Her attitude from kind of minute 0 to the last seconds of those competitions, she really radiated selflessness, kindness.
Black says she learned these values from coaches and teammates throughout her life.
1, 2, 3.
Now, working with young gymnasts, she hopes to inspire them to also put kindness first. Nicholas Sagan, CBC News, Halifax.
Coming up, NHL player Johnny Gaudreau and his brother have died. Police say both were hit while cycling by a suspected drunk driver. And pausing the fighting in Gaza to combat a potential polio outbreak. Israel agrees to briefly stop its assault for a vaccination drive. And Jay is up next with the weather forecast. We'll see you on the other side of the break. All right, it sounds like if you have some outdoor activities planned for the long weekend, the beginning part is when you want to schedule them.
Yeah, Saturday is looking to be pretty nice. Sunday, we start to see that wet weather really making its way across New Brunswick. Later in the day here is for folks into Nova Scotia. And temperature-wise, we'll start to see some humidity building in with a pretty robust southwesterly wind ahead of that cold front as well. Temperature-wise today, gorgeous across New Brunswick. A few cool spots, but otherwise, temperatures are back up for areas not dealing with the marine influence. Of our inland areas in particular, temperatures were up over 20 degrees. Again, not a lick of humidity in Nova Scotia. Very comfortable conditions today. And yeah, not much to look at in terms of satellite and radar imagery across all three maritime provinces with that ridge of high pressure in place that not only made for a sunny sky today, but also helped to tamper down that wind that we dealt with certainly yesterday. That wind was cool and very, very brisk indeed. It was fairly gusty. We'll start to see that wind picking up through your Saturday as another cold front approaches from our west. And that could bring some late day rain for parts of New Brunswick. I'm expecting it to stay fairly clear even into Saturday night. As we look to Nova Scotia. So the ridge of high pressure continues its exit to our east. We're going to watch for some cloud cover to start to build in. I do expect it to be mostly sunny, not as cloudy as this forecast model is showing for more central and southern parts of New Brunswick. That sun definitely shining, though, across Nova Scotia through your Saturday and then late in the day. So late afternoon, evening, we start to see the first of the showers arriving ahead of this cold front into northern New Brunswick. Sunnier conditions prevail, though, for more eastern parts of the Maritimes, including all of Nova Scotia. As we edge into Sunday morning, we can see this front diminishing, but another one's going to form in behind it, and that will see the showers working a little bit further to the east. Late in the day on Sunday, we could see those showers starting to make their way more widespread across Nova Scotia. Otherwise, we'll see them holding off generally to our west for Sunday. So it's a chance of showers for more western and northern areas, and likely later in the day for Nova Scotia. You have more widespread risk of not just showers, but even periods of more moderate downpours across New Brunswick on Sunday. And then Sunday night into Monday, there's that front taking shape again and working its way across the eastern Maritimes. So this is where we're going to see some sunshine returning through the day for New Brunswick, but you're watching for that wet weather, a brisk southerly wind to more of a northwesterly wind, depending on the track of that front through the day on Labor Day. So outdoor activities certainly better on your Saturday for most areas. But as we look further ahead, may not be too bad for folks, at least in New Brunswick on Monday. I think it'll be very late in the day that the clouds and the showers clear out for much of Nova Scotia on Labor Day. So let's take a look at your forecast, what you can expect across both provinces tonight. We'll see that clear sky with that ridge of high pressure in place. Few clouds starting to build for northwestern parts of New Brunswick tonight. Showers should hold off until late in the day tomorrow. Do watch for fog patches in places, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia tonight. And temperatures generally high single digits to low teens for those overnight low temperatures. Now, as we look to tomorrow, we'll be cooler downwind of the bay into parts of the Fundy Coast, but inland, very mild conditions and a bit of humidity building back into New Brunswick. Loads of sunshine across Nova Scotia. Temperatures for areas away from the water, low to mid-20s. You can add 2 to 3 degrees in terms of a humidex. That'll make it feel nice and warm, very summer-like still. But it's not going to be oppressive humidity. The wind will be picking up through the day on Saturday, so if you're heading to a beach, an umbrella may be more of an obligation than keeping the sun off of you, as that wind will be increasing through the day as that front approaches. So we'll start with your 7-day forecast in New Brunswick. You do have the rain arriving for northwestern areas late in the day on Saturday, sticking with you on Sunday, but clearing on Monday, cooling down with the passage of that cold front, but warming up into the middle part of next week. Nice start to a very sunny start as well to September for NB. And then as we look to Nova Scotia, we will watch for some sunny conditions for your Saturday. Showers possible, likely later in the day for most areas, and we'll see those showers lingering a little later in the day with the timing of that cold front later for eastern areas into Nova Scotia. Clear but cool as we look into the middle part of next week, but those temperatures starting to pick back up again towards the end of our first week of September.
Yeah, not too bad at all. All right, thank you, Jay. A new report calls for substantive changes to Nova Scotia's workers' compensation system. The review, the first in more than 20 years, finds the province has the highest employer premiums, the lowest benefits for injured workers, and among the lowest percentage of workforce coverage. I'm joined now by WCB Nova Scotia CEO Karen Adams. So this review paints a pretty bleak picture of the workers' comp system in Nova Scotia. Does that come as a surprise?
It's long overdue, and none of it comes as a surprise. We know ourselves, and we know what Nova Scotians deserve when it comes to workers' compensation. So this helps us to bridge that gap. It helps us to make a plan. It helps us to validate the things that we're already rolling up our sleeves and getting done.
Well, right now, 50,000 Nova Scotians have no workers' comp coverage at all. What will need to happen to address that?
We will need to expand the coverage. It's as simple as that. It's true that not enough Nova Scotians are covered. In other provinces, up to 98 or 99% of the working population is covered, and we're only at around 75% here in Nova Scotia.
At an average of, I think it's 168 days, Nova Scotia has the second longest average duration of claims in the country. What particular sectors are driving those?
You know, it's a variety of sectors: healthcare, fishing, construction. While all of those are improving, we still have the longest durations. Here's the thing: in Nova Scotia, people are less likely to get injured at work than in many other provinces. So we're doing a good job of prevention. However, if somebody does get injured at work, we're not doing a good enough job of helping them to get back to work, get it better, and then return to work timely to meaningful work. So there's the problem, and that's what we have to focus in on.
Now, gradual onset stress will be added as a compensable injury starting September 1st. I'm just wondering, how important is it for that sort of injury to be recognized, and also how hard is it to define?
It's extremely important for us to recognize that in the workplace, one can have a physical injury. We're all quite accustomed to that. Think of a construction site, a ladder, a worker falls off that ladder and breaks her leg. That's a physical injury. A psychological injury, think of that same workplace, and there's bullying and harassment in the workplace, causing a diagnosis of an actual mental health issue with that worker. Of course, that's as important as a physical injury. And it's important that we cover these injuries. Starting tomorrow, we are ready. We're the 8th province across the country to compensate for psychological injury. It's the right thing to do.
Now, Manitoba has been held up as an example of a comparable province that's doing a better job with workers' comp. What lessons can be learned from Manitoba?
Oh, so many. Manitoba does an excellent job, particularly around return to work. The thing that's different in Manitoba, and we visited there only recently to learn from them and bring best practices back to Nova Scotia. The thing that they do is they have alignment among the employer, the worker, the healthcare provider, and workers' compensation in rallying around that injured worker to ensure that they get back to work safely and quickly, thus reducing the durations, and then making sure that the system itself is sustainable and is not as expensive as it is in Nova Scotia, where we have the opposite.
All right, so quite a few changes called for in this review. Which ones are you tackling first, and how long will the whole overhaul, I guess, take?
Yeah. Well, we didn't wait for the review. I have been here for a year now as the new CEO of Workers' Compensation, and we got to work immediately. The first most important thing is service, delivering the kind of service that Nova Scotians deserve. So we put service level agreements in place, published them, and are going about meeting those service level agreements. If a worker gets injured at work, they can expect to immediately hear from Workers' Compensation Board. Should you call us or email us, you can immediately expect to hear back from us. We were dropping the ball in that area. We were taking too long to get things done. And so that's the number one thing, is service that we're providing to both workers and employers.
All right, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Welcome back. An NHL player who defied the odds and made a big impact on the game has died. 31-year-old Johnny Gaudreau and his 29-year-old brother Matthew were hit by a car while out cycling. The CBC's Sam Sampson has more on Gaudreau and why he'll be remembered as Johnny Hockey.
Go, Johnny, go, go, go.
The memory of Johnny Gaudreau still lives on at the arena he once called home.
He was the person who probably made me watch hockey in the first place. Just one of the few bright lights that, we've had as Flames fans in this city for a long time. Haven't, had a lot to cheer for, but he was one of those guys that, even if we're losing, he's just entertaining to watch.
We hope that he's doing well in heaven, his family's okay.
Gaudreau and his 29-year-old brother Matthew were close. Both played professional hockey, Johnny in the NHL and Matthew in the AHL and ECHL. Police say the brothers were riding bikes on this road in their home state of New Jersey Thursday. The brothers were hit and killed by a suspected drunk driver. They were supposed to be groomsmen at their sister's wedding Friday. A family member wrote on Facebook they've lost 2 husbands, 2 fathers, 2 sons, 2 amazing humans. Johnny Gaudreau played 9 seasons with the Calgary Flames. Nicknamed Johnny Hockey for his skill and speed, Gaudreau gave fans big moments like this overtime winning goal against the Dallas Stars in the 2022 playoff run.
It was just time for me to make a little bit of a change, I think.
He left for the Columbus Blue Jackets 2 years ago, saying he wanted to be closer to family, a frustrating move for Flames fans, who gave him a mixed welcome his first game back in Calgary. As a physically smaller player in the NHL, Gaudreau defied expectations.
Especially those smaller kids who were told, you're not going to be able to make it, whether it's hockey or some other sport. You're not the right size. It's not the right fit for you. And, they can look at him and say, this is a guy who defied those odds.
Gaudreau's stateside fan base now joins Canadians saying goodbye too soon.
He spoke highly of Columbus. He wanted to raise his family here. He talked about that all the time.
A loss now mourned by family and fans. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
More than 1 million doses of polio vaccine have arrived in Gaza, and more is on the way. Now, health officials are waiting for a series of ceasefires to take effect so they can administer the medication. Julia Chapman has the latest.
The Israeli military says border police have killed Wassem Hazem just outside of Jenin in the occupied West Bank. It describes him as the head of Hamas in Jenin and accuses him of directing bombing and shooting attacks. The IDF says 2 other Hamas members were killed in an aerial strike as they attempted to flee the scene. Hamas has confirmed that 3 people were killed in the north of the West Bank on Friday. If confirmed that Hazam's death has been part of that, it would be the second of a high-profile target by the Israelis in as many days after an Islamic Jihad commander was killed yesterday in Tulkarm. As the Israeli operation in the occupied West Bank continues for a 3rd day, Palestinians there have reported a lack of clean drinking water and dwindling food supplies. Israeli bulldozers have damaged water and sewage systems in some areas. But in war-torn Gaza, there is a glimmer of hope after the World Health Organization confirmed humanitarian pauses have been agreed. That's to allow a vaccination campaign against polio to begin on Sunday. Hamas and Israel have both accepted a plan to down their weapons for several hours at a time for 3-day vaccine rollouts in different parts of Gaza. Polio had been eradicated in Gaza for 25 years, but a case has been confirmed in an 11-month-old boy. A freelancer working for CBC News spoke to his family, who said he had become weak and immobile. One doctor working in Khan Yunis says the conditions in Gaza in recent months have led to the resurgence of the virus.
Due to the dirty water, due to the dirty food and the lack of the detergents, the polio, it has started to attack our city. It's not the children's only for your neighbors, the children that you are playing with them. So it is a responsibility for us, for the fathers and the mothers, for the family. Everyone here in Gaza has an own responsibility to have a polio vaccines.
Polio is not a reversible disease, but it is preventable, and health officials are optimistic that 640,000 children under 10 will be able to get immunized. But the program will be complex and depends on the cooperation of warring parties. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
Reaction to Kamala Harris's interview is still coming in, but her opponent, Donald Trump, gave it an immediate thumbs down, posting on social media the single word boring, followed by 3 exclamation marks. Katie Nicholson looks at how the Trump team is handling a female challenger and women voters this election. And a warning, this story contains a sexual reference that parents may not want their children to hear.
The climate crisis is real.
As Kamala Harris sat down for her big interview since moving to the top of the Democratic ticket, Republican VP candidate J.D. Vance posted this on X. Breaking. I've gotten a hold of the full Kamala Harris CNN interview. Attached, a viral video of a teenage beauty pageant contestant who badly flubbed a question on national television. Told by CNN the young contestant in that video was traumatized at the time by that embarrassing moment and even contemplated suicide, J.D. Vance said this.
I'm not going to apologize for posting a joke, but I wish the best for Caitlin. I hope that she's doing well. And again, what I'd say is one bad moment shouldn't define anybody, and the best way to deal with this stuff is to laugh at ourselves.
This comes after Donald Trump was heavily criticized for sharing an image of Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton with a vulgar joke attached. Funny how blowjobs impacted both their careers differently, it said. That, of course, a reference to Bill Clinton's inappropriate behavior with a White House intern, as well as an insinuation Harris used sexual favors to advance her political career, a reference to her relationship with prominent California politician Willie Brown. And yet, Trump tried to cozy up to women voters seeking in vitro fertilization last night.
For IVF, and I've been looking at it, and what we're going to do is for people that are using IVF, which is fertilization, the government is going to pay for it, or we're going to get or mandate your insurance company to pay for it, which is going to be great. We're going to do that.
The irony, of course, Trump's own Supreme Court appointees helped overturn the right to abortion, which opened the door to an Alabama ruling that frozen embryos are children, creating a chill on IVF treatment. Trump has lost significant ground with women voters since Harris became the presidential nominee. A Reuters poll yesterday showed Harris has a 13 percentage point lead over Trump among women voters. That's up from a 9-point lead in July. These latest accusations of misogyny could widen that gap. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
New GDP numbers out today show the economy continues to chug along despite high interest rates. Scott Peterson has the details.
This GDP report is showing like a 1-2 punch. In one hand, the second quarter grew faster than economists were expecting at a 2.1% rate. That's actually the fastest growth that we've seen in a few years, and it's higher than it was in the first quarter. So these all sort of show signs that the economy is showing somewhat more resilient than economists were expecting, but there are signs that the economy is slowing. For the month of June, the last month in the second quarter, for example, showing pretty much a flat reading, and Statistics Canada believes that July will be pretty flat the same. It would have been even lower, that GDP rate, instead of the 2.1, but if not for government spending, up 11% on an annualized basis and up pretty dramatically for that quarter alone. Also, we saw reductions in manufacturing and construction, mining, oil and gas, wholesale trade, and overall the output is slowing. Economists believe that the first half of this year was strong, owing to a lot of people coming into the workforce as well, but household spending is slowing to 0.6% for the latest quarter, and that's well down from a 3% growth in the last 2 quarters before that. And what that means is that is really the bread and butter of the economy. 2/3 of the economy is dependent on you, me, and everyone else spending money, and we're not seeing that, and that's directly attributable to high interest rates and people being a little bit more selective with what they're spending on. So far, the reaction from economists are we are going to see another rate reduction from the Bank of Canada next week, another quarter-point reduction. That'll be a third in a row, but economists believe that we're going to see another couple of rate reductions before the end of the year, and that's probably welcome news to a lot of Canadians out there with high debt levels and potentially refinancing their mortgages. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
New restrictions on nicotine pouches came into effect this week, and there's already a backlash. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
29-year-old Zach Lang has been smoking since he was a teenager. So when flavored nicotine pouches appeared in convenience stores a year ago, He says they felt safer than cigarettes.
To me, it always felt like the nicotine pouches were sort of the lesser of two evils.
The small white packet, which goes by the brand name Zonic, is placed between a person's cheek and gums. That releases what doctors say is the nicotine equivalent of smoking multiple cigarettes, but with no tobacco.
I really liked them. I mean, they didn't make me feel ill like tobacco products would at times.
Lang says he understands the need to keep them away from children, but says the new restrictions go too far. Now that nicotine pouches are unavailable in convenience stores, even to adults.
I can't understand why, actually. Why can't you cancel cigarettes?
Now those bright-colored packages enticing to kids are off the shelves, something health advocates argued for.
We can't expect a gas station attendant to provide smoking cessation advice the way we can from a health professional.
Only mint can be bought from a pharmacist. Fruity flavors are completely recalled. Some say that could make it harder for those who are using Zonic to quit.
Often adult smokers trying to quit will pick fruitier flavors or flavors that are not mint or not tobacco flavor.
The maker of Zonic, Imperial Tobacco, argues the ban could also encourage an illegal market.
I remind everybody that we are the only approved nicotine pouch in Canada.
Canada's health minister says unlike other products already authorized to help you quit smoking, like nicotine gum or patches, these pouches were targeting youth. And some teenagers who had never smoked a cigarette before were trying them. That's why he says these restrictions need to be so tough. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
right, Jay, I spy a picnic or a barbecue behind you, so I'm thinking that's probably for Saturday.
Yeah, this is looking pretty good. I just want to make sure I don't get any melted butter on the suit jacket. Dry cleaning bill could be a little high there. Temperature will be a little higher as well as we look to New Brunswick tomorrow, up into the low to mid-20s. You can add a few degrees, a bit of a humidex as that brisk southwest wind starts to usher in some humid air, although late in the day for northern areas, western areas, some showers possible. That brings us into showers, periods of rain, and a brisk wind on Sunday. That cold front will be moving through on Sunday, so I expect you to start clearing out on Monday, but temperatures will still be a bit cool. But you'll see a fairly sunny afternoon for most areas, but that wind from the north-northwest will still be a little on the blustery side. And then as we look to Nova Scotia for your long weekend outlook, loads of sunshine with a brisk southwesterly wind gradually picking up through the second half of the day. We'll be a little on the breezy side. Good chance of showers, I think, later in the day on Sunday. May see a fairly sunny start. Do watch for some fog patches, both early tomorrow morning as well as early Sunday morning. And then the cold front still working its way for most of mainland Nova Scotia into Cape Breton, even into the evening hours possible on Monday. But I expect that wet weather for most areas to be sticking with us through the day on Sunday, maybe clearing for more central and western areas late in the day on Monday. So not a great Labor Day. Sunday won't be too bad, as it should hold off until late in the day, that shower activity. But if you have to plan any outdoor activities, maybe spending some time by the grill, I think Saturday is going to be the day. Just Saturday afternoon, make sure you keep an eye on that napkin, as it will be a little on the breezy side.
Okay, sounds good. Well, have a great weekend, Jay.
You too.
Thousands of people descended on a village in Spain this week for one of the world's most famous annual food fights. Trucks loaded with ripe, juicy tomatoes supply the revelers with ammunition. It's called the tomatina, a tradition that dates back to 1945. Organizers claim there's no food waste here and that the tomatoes are not fit for human consumption. Well, that is it for us tonight, but just a quick heads up, due to the Paralympic Games, some of our shows may be delayed next week. Thanks so much for watching and have a great long weekend.